So there you go.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Guy Smith, for having me on your Zoom again. So, and if you have any comments or questions, just feel free to just butt in.
Okay.
Just feel free to butt in. I
Appreciate
so I've known about this guy for probably about 10 years, and he is a early 20th century. He's a very unique individual, very early 20th century Protestant Christian theologian, um, commentator. And he wrote a book in 1916 called The Light of Truth as Revealed in the Holy Scriptures. The Light of Truth as Revealed in the Holy Scriptures. His name was Levi Rightmyer. And this guy was a very unique individual because he talked about things that no other Christian before him or even after him has written about and spoke of. I've read a lot of Christian commentaries on the end of time and just on various issues. And like in my eSword, I have numerous commentaries, and I routinely go through them in my research. And I can tell you, no one was like this guy. He was writing on a different level, I will say. And
Levi,
a lot
Levi,
of his,
Levi Rightmyer.
yeah, Right Meyer Myer Rightmyer's one word, Rightmyer, and he was the first Christian, I think, to accurately coin the term second Exodus. Actually, that's how I found him. I searched him on Google, did a history search, an advanced history search, and looked for the term second Exodus in early literature. And I found this guy. He was the first one that came up, or at least the earliest text that came up using that term. That's why I found him. That was about 10 years ago, in 2015, when I was doing 2016 was when we had our world's first second Exodus conference in January of 2016 in Springfield, Missouri. So I was trying to do some research in order to prep for it. I was writing a lot about it. I stumbled upon this guy. Um, but and so he actually nails several points, which is very true. Now his writing is kind of difficult to get through because it's kind of monotonous, and he doesn't really break it up. The readability factor is kind of low, and so it's difficult to like stay engaged. But because like he'll quote scriptures, and he quotes a lot of scriptures in his writings, and he doesn't distinguish it from the rest of his text. So he maybe put paraphrase quotation marks, but he doesn't really distinguish it. So it's just like one long read you got to go through. So it's kind of difficult. But if you just take your time and go through his writings, he does say some really profound things. And what I did was I was working on an article about the kingdom of heaven and the 10 lost tribes of Israel in the Gospel of Luke. And I was thinking, well, you know what? For some reason, I was like, let me revisit this guy's commentary because I thought he wrote about the age of Joseph, what I call the age of Joseph. And I go back there, and sure enough, he does. And by the way, so what I call the age of Joseph is the age preceding the age of David. So just as, the age of David being, let me qualify that, Yeshua reigning for 1,000 years, the millennial reign. The age of David precedes that. And it is a time where the sons of Joseph and 10 Israel rises to power and becomes a super nation, basically, and leads Israel and the nations into kingdom truth, kingdom of heaven, truth and glory before Yeshua returns. Okay. And
Right.
that's a huge key before Yeshua returns. Go ahead, guy.
No, I agree.
Okay. Um, so this guy, Levi Rightmyer, he does not, he writes on this specific time period, the age of Joseph, but he doesn't call it the age of Joseph. He calls it, quote, the hidden age. He also refers to it as
What's it called?
the hidden age.
Okay.
He also refers to it as the second period of Israel's history, end quote. The second period of Israel's history, which he believes transpires in, of course, in the future, just like the age of Joseph, I believe, yeah. But I think it's important that we talk about this guy and some of his commentary. I just would like to read to you some of what he wrote, because it's very interesting, and I think unique to our studies and kind of what we're doing. So I'm just going to quote this. This is from his book, "The Light is Revealed in the Holy Scriptures," page 422, emphasis mine. Or yeah. Quote, "We now enter upon the presentation of one of the most important among the many important subjects brought to view in the Holy Scriptures, which is nothing less than an age which will arise and be manifested between the present time, 1916, and the second coming of Christ. An age that will be characterized by the same miraculous works and events that were witnessed in the past history of the house of Israel, beginning with their deliverance from the bondage of Egypt down to the time of Christ's first appearing in the world. And many of the great things which were brought to pass in their former history will be greatly exceeded by those that are to come. We have spoken about this as the hidden age, from the fact that the scriptures related thereto have been misinterpreted and misapplied, and so much that the age to which they refer, and wherein these remarkable prophecies are to be find their fulfillment, has been almost, if not entirely, lost sight of and left out of the calculations, writings, and teachings of the leading commentators and writers of the sectarian world in modern times. Now, to illustrate what we say, many persons from the apostolic times up to the present day have been teaching and expecting that the second coming of Christ might transpire in or somewhere about the days wherein they were living. And many, yea, very many of these mistaken and misguided people have set times and published dates when they expected that Christ would come. Luther, that is Martin Luther, said that he believed that Christ would come within a period of about 300 years from his times. He wrote in the early 1500s, late 1400s, early 1500s. So he wrote that he believed that Christ would come within a period of about 300 years from his times. That would be early 1800s then. So he believed, I guess, that Yeshua would come in the early 1800s to destroy what he regarded as Antichrist, the papal power. And both before and since his day, there have been multitudes fixing upon times, and they are just as busily employed at the present day in this same thing as they have been in the past. And the ignominious failures of all that have preceded them appear to teach them nothing. Now, all these persons, by their faith and works, manifest their utter ignorance of this age, which is coming, and which must precede the second coming of Christ, or the scriptures would be broken, which Jesus himself said cannot be. End quote. So basically what he's doing is he's saying Christianity has been totally ignorant, like everybody, ignorant of this particular age, which he calls the hidden age, which I believe he's accurate on describing about. And he believes basically that they don't understand the prophecies, that they've neglected a lot of the prophecies, especially from the Tanakh, from the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm.
And I would agree with him about that. And so, and he goes on and he goes on. I would like to read this one quote in here. He talks about the second Exodus. So he continues, he goes on and has said some really interesting stuff. And he singles out in this one particular passage, he singles out the second Exodus, which actually he writes, he has a whole treatment on in another chapter. But when he's describing about the age of Joseph, he does briefly mention the second Exodus also here. And I want to mention he believes the second Exodus takes place during the age of Joseph, or the hidden age. So he says here, quote, "The latter days of Israel are future to the days in which we now live. And they will commence with the second exodus of the whole house of Israel from among all nations where they are dispersed, and whence they will be gathered again after the manner that they were brought out of Egypt, with a high hand and an uplifted arm, and after being disciplined again in the wilderness, as aforetime, they'll be reinstated in the Holy Land under the second law, as contained in the book of Deuteronomy, and under the administration of judges as of old. End quote. Very interesting. So basically what he's doing is he's pinpointing when he believes the second Exodus will take place. He believes it happens at the beginning of this hidden age. Or this, he actually believes that the second Exodus will commence the hidden age, or the age of Joseph.
Right.
And he believes that just like Israel was prodded and corrected in the wilderness, in the desert, so too they'll be again. They'll be taken in the wilderness of the nations, and they'll be disciplined. And he says that they'll be brought into
right. Agreed.
Yeah. And he says they'll be reinstated in the Holy Land under the second law, Deuteronomy, as contained in the book of Deuteronomy, and under the administrations of judges as of old. So he doesn't believe they're going to go back to a monarchy. He believes they're going to be doing it right, or like the judges. Which I believe is basically mostly accurate and true. A theocracy, basically, what he's saying is a theocracy under the administration of judges, like what happened 450 years after Israel reclaimed the land. Basically that history is going to repeat itself. And so now he attempts to ascertain the duration of time concerning this age. And he says, I believe that he says that it's going to be a long time, quote unquote, long time. And I think he alludes to being multiple generations. And he talks about other things. He talks about, so basically what I do at the end, so I quote many points, many sections of his work in this treatment, in this chapter. This chapter is like 100 pages. This book that he wrote on the end of time is about 1,000 pages. And I analyze this section on the hidden age, which is about 100 or so pages. And I quote certain sections that he writes on in my treatment, my article on his work. And then what I do is I comment on it, and I distinguish between what I believe are points where I believe he is correct on trying to ascertain and identify the future events into their time period and what's going on. Their time period, when I say time period, I mean the time of events, not the date on which they take place, but the kind of the ordinal chronology of in-time events. That's what he's trying to get at. And so I make sense of this, and I state what the reasons, the point-by-point reasons, where I believe he was right, and I comment on those. And then I state the point-by-point reasons where I believe he was wrong, and I comment on those, and I use scripture to back up my reasoning. So I just want to write to you what I've written, and it's an analysis of as a point-by-point analysis of Mr. Rightmyer's his treatment on this hidden age. So this is what I say. This is just a part of my writing. I say, we will now critique Mr. Rightmyer's commentaries, classifying together all the points where we believe he was correct, and classifying together all the points where we believe he was incorrect. Where, for the record, here are about 4 points where we believe Mr. Rightmyer was correct in his eschatological assessment of the events that transpire within the age of Joseph, the hidden age. Number 1, point 1. He correctly identifies the hidden age, which we know as the age of Joseph, and which is agreeable with the author that this time period has been missed by nearly all of Christendom. From Christian prophecy teachers to experts of theology, minus those Christians who hold the kingdom now theology or dominion theology, they largely understand they largely understand the concept of that the incumbency factor is upon us to welcome and to build the kingdom of heaven on earth. So I'm talking about, I said, minus those Christians who hold the kingdom now theology or dominion theology. So I'm also referring to both Christendom and as well as the Messianic faith. And that a lot of prophecy teachers have missed this as well. And that this epoch, this hidden age, takes place before Yeshua returns and is an age when Israel, both houses of Israel, that is, will ascend to nationhood and become abundantly blessed and powerful nations. He talks about that on page 422. We just read that. Okay. Point number 2. He correctly identifies the second Exodus as a physical migration of all the tribes of Israel scattered around the world back to the Holy Land, along with his accompanying sub-events and surrounding judgments and prophecies related to it. He's also very close in supposing that the second Exodus is what kickstarts this hidden age. I say very close because as of recent, I mean, like, as in like within the past 2 weeks, I realized that I held the idea that the second Exodus is what kickstarts the age of Joseph. I believe this for many years, probably 10 years. Now I see that even though it's at the beginning of the age of Joseph, I'm not for sure that it kickstarts the age of Joseph. I think there are other events that could kickstart the age of Joseph, like what is revealed in the parable of 10 minas in the Gospel of Luke, in Luke chapter 19. Luke chapter 19. Those events among 10 Israel, I believe, could likely kickstart the age of Joseph. Nevertheless, the second Exodus is one of the beginning events within the age of Joseph. So he is right about that. Number 3, we believe Mr. Rightmyer is correct in discerning that the duration of the term of Israel's restored future prominence and blessedness in the land of Canaan during the age of Joseph is, quote unquote, a long time, implying multiple generations. The author also holds to such a view. This means that multiple generations of Israel's restored power will likely be enacted and come to pass before Yeshua's return. Yeah. Number 4, the author concludes that in Israel's restored future, when I say author, I'm referring to myself, that in Israel's restored future, at least a small number of Israelites will fall prey to Gentile and heathenish idolatrous practices, yet only for a short time, and again, a small number, as in less than the majority, and also less than half at that, for about 3.5 years, starting at the beginning of the 7-year tribulation. This also is an agreement. So I concur with what Levi Rightmyers is saying, which he believes, and I'll explain later what he's saying here, is that he believes that Israel, after going through a time of blessedness, will fall prey to the old sins of old, and basically all Israel will then go astray and become scattered again and go back to the nations and whatnot. But basically they're going to be judged of Elohim 7 times worse than what they ever were, and it's all doom and gloom basically until the time of Daniel's 70th week, when Yah sends judgment. But basically, so he believes this hidden age is when Israel rises to power. They enter a time of blessedness and abundance and prosperity. Then they fall back into their old ways and their sins after some time, and then Yah judges them again, and it's really bad. And then it ends with the Daniel's 70th week. That's what he believes in a nutshell. And he goes and he writes about this extensively. He goes into detail about this. Let me turn my phone on since it's beeping. I'm going to turn on airplane mode. Here we go. So I'm gonna talk about the points where I believe he is incorrect, Mr.
Right.
Rightmyer.
Before you go any further, so that's the way he believes, and that's the way you believe.
No, no. He believes that. I don't believe that.
Okay.
Yeah, I should thank you for clarifying. I don't. Thank you for helping me.
That should have been in the next section, right?
Yeah, that's in the
But
next
just you
section.
don't agree with.
Right. That's what I'm about to talk about. Is
Right.
the points that I don't agree with him on. Yeah. So, and here's where we believe. Continue on in this discourse that I'm. This my treatment on Mr. Rightmyer. And here's where we believe Mr. Rightmyer was incorrect in his eschatological assessment of the events that transpire within the age of Joseph or the hidden age. Number one, what Mr. Rightmyer is referring to when he mentions that the second fall of Israel after their time of bliss will, according to the author of this article's eschatological interpretation, take place at the beginning of Daniel's 70th week. We would disagree with several of the prophecies. So what I'm saying is,
Yes, please
what I'm saying is,
explain what you're saying.
yeah. So what I'm saying is, I believe that Israel will have a second fall on a miniature scale, a very minutiae scale, within the 7-year tribulation. So after their time of the age of Joseph, after they've spent the time with Elohim and building the kingdom of heaven on earth and prospering and living a time of abundance, that this time of Israel's lapse into their second fall, and it will happen during the first 3.5 years of the 7-year tribulation.
Right.
But again, what I believe is only a very, very small number of them. He believes that it's going to happen before this, and it's going to expand, it's going to extend through probably generations, or at least a long time, span a long period of time, where they lapse into this fall, all this sin and idolatry, and they're going to be judged harshly for it. This was also going to last quite some time, longer than the 7-year tribulation. That's kind of what he believes. So we would disagree with several of the prophecies Mr. Rightmyer uses to arrive at his conclusion, and we would only, to a minutiae degree, agree with what he's actually concluding. Mr. Rightmyer applies many of the curse and judgment prophecies sentenced upon ancient Israel that have already transpired to still as yet be fulfilled again by restored Israel in the future. And this is where he misappropriates the prophecies. This is where we believe he misappropriates the prophecies. For at the beginning of Daniel's 70th week, and after the united kingdom of Nazarene Israel makes a covenant or a pact with Armilus, Daniel 9:27, indeed a large multitude of Gentiles will come in and pollute the holy city of Jerusalem and the outer courts of the Ezekiel's temple for the first 3.5 years of the 7 years, so the 7-year tribulation. So says the apostle John in the book of Revelation. And he quoted Revelation 11, verse 1 and 2, verse 2, but the court which is without the temple leave out and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city is Jerusalem, they shall tread underfoot 40 and 2 months. End quote. This influx of Gentile heathens to tread down the holy city of Jerusalem and the temple courts of the Gentiles, the Azarat HaGoyim, begins to take place at the beginning of the 7-year tribulation. However, Mr. Rightmyer supposes that restored Israel will, by and large, and for a long period of time, sink into utmost sinful depravity, and this is where he speaks amiss. And notice how in the above passage it calls Jerusalem the holy city in Revelation 11:2, just before the Gentiles come in and pollute it. This means that its inhabitants, including all the tribes of Israel within the Holy Land, up until this time, are worshiping Yahuwah, worshiping Yah, in righteousness and holiness, guarding the commandments of Elohim in truth and in justice. So it is only when the Gentile heathens flood into the city, and at this time that things go south very quickly, which is why only later in this chapter do we see Jerusalem, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, because the reason why it's called that is because the Gentiles have polluted it. They've come in and polluted it. That's why it's called Sodom and Egypt, because the Gentiles have had a couple of years to pollute it already. So
You have to give me a break.
Okay.
I'm going to stop the recording. Well, I'll leave it running. You can edit it out. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Get back.
Okay.
Get back.
Okay.
Get back to where you once belong.
Okay. Let me see where I was. Okay, yeah, got it.
42 months.
Yeah. Ready?
And you disagree with him.
Yeah. And I'll yeah. Did you start the recording?
Oh, I didn't stop it.
Oh, you didn't stop it. Oh, okay, okay. Right. So continuing on. And sadly there will likely be, so I talk about Israel becomes Sodom, and Jerusalem become like Sodom and Egypt. The holy city will become like Sodom and Egypt. Because the Gentiles, and for the longest time I thought, it wasn't until this year actually that I had this perplexing, I couldn't solve this problem. I was like, how is it that Jerusalem, if it's in the age of Joseph, for the longest time, for years, I could not understand this. I could not really understand why this was so. But why was it? If the age of Joseph was to be this prosperous, abundant age that Israel was to enter into, why is it that Jerusalem at the end is going to be called Sodom and Egypt? It's going to become evil and corrupt. And for the longest time, I couldn't understand why. until this year, 2025, when I was doing my my in-depth chart on the end of time. I couldn't, just couldn't compute why it was so. And then the answer just clicked one day. This light bulb went on as to why this is so. And the answer is right there in the same chapter, in Revelation chapter 11. Why would Jerusalem become as Sodom and Egypt? It's because the Gentiles are the ones coming in and polluting it. That's why. Not so much that Israel, now there may be Israelites, there will most likely be Israelites who also join these Gentiles in polluting the city. But most of Israel, I would say the majority of them, most of them are not going to join the Gentiles in this thing. Most of them will refrain from that. I hope and pray that it's most. I do believe it is most. Although perhaps it might be a minority. I don't know. But it's the Gentiles, though, that come in and pollute it, which is what leads the downfall for the holy city to become like Sodom and Egypt. So I say here, and sadly, there will likely be a small number of Israelites who will join these Gentiles in their abominations. Hence why Mr. Rightmyer might be partially correct that even though it is not all of Israel who will fall into this Gentile worship against Yahuwah, it is likely that a few of them will. In this way, Mr. Rightmyer is correct that future restored Israel, though we believe a very small portion of Israel, will have a second decline after the period of righteousness and prosperity during the age of Joseph. But he is sorely mistaken in that they as a whole will, or even that a majority of them will fall into their former idolatrous practices. This too we see as inaccurate and does not corroborate with the restoration prophecies. And the reason why I say the bulk of them will not, the majority of them will not fall prey, most likely, is because the prophecies given in the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel says in chapter 36, 24 through 28, "For I, Yahuwah," and this is emphasis mine, "will take you, house of Israel, from among the heathen, and gather you out of all nations, out of all countries, and will bring you into your own land." Okay? He's talking about the second Exodus. This is a second Exodus prophecy. Okay? Now he's going to talk about the time after the second Exodus. What's going to happen after that time? Here's what he says. "Then I will sprinkle clean water upon you, and you shall be clean. From all your filthiness and from all your idols will I cleanse you. A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and will give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes, and you shall keep my judgments and do them. And you shall dwell in the land that I gave your fathers, and you shall be my people, and I will be your Elohim." End quote. That's Ezekiel 36, 24 through 28. This means that restored Israel, this is my commentary on it, will have a natural proclivity to keep the commandments of Yahuwah, a natural proclivity to obey Elohim, to obey God. That it will become their desire and will even be embedded into their DNA, so much so that they will not want to deviate from the Heavenly Father's commandments again, both them as well as their descendants. In this way, they, as a national whole, will not fall under their former idolatries as the rebellious forefathers did in previous times. Ezekiel tells us yet again, speaking of future Israel's post-restoration. This is the next chapter, Ezekiel chapter 37. "Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will save them out of all their dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their Elohim." So thus, following their time of bliss, it does not appear that... What?
No.
Okay. It does not appear that the restored Israel, will again fall prey to their idol practice, their old idolatrous practices to worship idols and worship idols. At least as a whole, they will not resort back to this sinful folly. This passage in Ezekiel 37, verse 23, therefore disproves Mr. Rightmyer's generic prophetic assumption that they will. Okay, that was first point. Second point. Second point is only like a couple sentences.
I have,
Okay. Second point is actually quite close. It's only a couple sentences.
3 hours later.
Yeah. Right. Second point. Mr. Rightmyer also apparently does not understand that it is the sons of Joseph and the house of Ephraim in particular who spearhead this hidden age, as opposed to the house of Judah. This is something that he did not comment on, likely because he was unaware of it. Oftentimes, he did understand the difference between Judah and Israel, the north and southern kingdom. He actually believed they would be restored like that again, which I believe is true also. But he also applied Israel as Jews as well. So he referred to northern Israel as Jews, which I believe is not accurate. It's not true, not accurately true. So anyway, that's why I say he doesn't distinguish and he doesn't understand that it's the northern kingdom that's going to spearhead this restored kingdom of Israel. That's the end of the number two. Point number three, why Mr. Rightmyer was wrong. Mr. Rightmyer supposes that after both houses of Israel have been restored and planted within the Holy Land, that they will again be broken up and bifurcated and have animosity towards each other. By the way, I think he was from Massachusetts. He published his.
Oh, shoot, that explains it.
That explains it. A New Yorker. Probably. He published from Boston. It was Boston.
Boston.
Yeah. He published in Boston. I think isn't there a Boston, New York, though, also? Boston, Massachusetts, and then Boston, New York?
No.
No?
Where?
Okay. Just Boston, Massachusetts, then.
Yeah.
Okay. Which isn't Boston nearby New York?
There's a good distance apart.
Okay. All right. So anyway, I think that's where he made Massachusetts. He was American. But so let me say this again. That's point number three. Mr. Rightmyer supposes that after both houses of Israel have been restored and planted within the Holy Land, that they will again be broken up and bifurcated and have animosity towards each other. Page 456 in what his text. He is sorely mistaken about this, as once the two houses of Israel have returned to the Holy Land and have become united, they will no longer again be separated into two nations or two kingdoms anymore at all, as they will be completely and permanently united by the power and spirit of Elohim, of God. So says the prophet Ezekiel. Velo ye rod lishnei goyim. There will no longer be two nations. This is Ezekiel 37, verse 22. I had to say the Hebrew because it's important. Lishnei goyim, and two nations will not yichtzu rod lishtei mamlechot od. So and they should no longer be divided into two kingdoms anymore at all. So no longer be two nations, no longer be divided into two kingdoms. So I'm gonna quote this in the context, all right, in English. Ezekiel 37, verse 21. And say unto them, thus saith Adonai Yahuwah, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and will gather them on every side and bring them to their own land. I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king of them all, and they shall no more be two nations.
So again, what's that verse? What's that chapter and verse?
Ezekiel 37, 22. And neither shall be divided into two kingdoms anymore at all. Neither shall they defile themselves any more of their idols, nor of their detestable things, nor of any of their transgressions, but I will save them out of all their dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them, so shall they be my people, and I will be their Elohim. So, again, it is not, according to this prophecy, Israel will not be divided again.
Agreed.
And once they become united, they will be permanently united, which is good. It gives me so much hope to know this.
I agree.
And this is really a very restorative, hopeful prophecy, because if you read Mr. Rightmyer's works, man, let me tell you, it is so disappointing and like, oh my gosh, it's hard to get through because it's like judgment after judgment. He just lays the curses upon Israel in the future. It's like they're gonna go through these curses and this curses and this curses and all these curses. And it's like, oh man, is there any hope? Is there any light at the end of this tunnel? It's difficult to get through his writings when seeing this. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so that's what compelled me to really do some digging. Because I'm like, oh man, maybe he's right. Maybe it's just doom and gloom. And come to find out, Mr. Rightmyer, you came close, but no cigar. You're actually a little bit off, quite a bit off, actually. Continuing on, number 4.4. Mr. Rightmyer supposes that Samaria, Shomron, will again be the capital of the northern kingdom of restored Israel in the future. So the northern kingdom is restored. The southern kingdom is restored back in the land. This happened before the state of Israel which is the stick of Judah. This was 1916. He's writing. This is before Judah officially restored their nation and came back fully. And this is definitely before Ephraim comes back, which we believe will happen in the future. So does Mr. Rightmyer. He believes this. They're both coming back. And Judah is wicked. So I will say, you know what? I should actually qualify this. So Judah has gone back to a lot of their old sins. Not all of them. They haven't become like mass idol worshippers. But when it comes to debauchery and sexual sin and all kinds of other stuff, they are there right now in the house of Judah, the state of Israel. So in that way, he could be right. But the judgments have not yet been enacted upon them. And the curses have not really been enacted upon them. And I don't believe they necessarily will. Yah will have his day with the house of Judah. He will bring judgment on them, I believe, during the second Exodus. So I just want to say, he believes that both kingdoms are going to be restored, like of old time. And they're going to be righteous at first. They're going to be a prosper in abundance. And then they're going to go back, sink back. And the northern kingdom is going to, Jerusalem is going to make Judah will make Jerusalem their capital, and northern Israel will make Samaria their own capital. And then they're going to sink back into their old depravity, which he's wrong about that. He's wrong about several other points. I think actually I should state that he is right also about the two houses becoming nations again. I don't think I said that. At least not in the write-up. Hang on just a second. Okay. All right. So So he says that he believes that northern kingdom, once they're restored, that Samaria will be their capital again. No, it's not going to be. I'm convinced that that's not true. First of all, if they're righteous, then they're not going to commit the same sins like that. So I say, Mr. Rightmyer supposes that Samaria will begin to be capital of northern kingdom and restored Israel in the future. Actually, however, Samaria will never again be the capital of the northern kingdom, as long as they will be united in the holy temple and in Jerusalem with their brother Judah. Quote, Ezekiel 37, verse 26 says, quote, moreover, I, Yahuwah, will make a covenant of peace with them, a brit shalom, or brit shalom with them. That is, Yah will make a covenant at that time with the united kingdom of Nazarene Israel. After the two houses have already been, the two sticks have already become one. That means it's the united kingdom of Nazarene Israel at this time. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary, my temple, in the midst of them forevermore. Them referring to the two houses of Israel. So what it means is they're going to come to the temple and worship in Jerusalem, not set up their own area of worship in Samaria. No, he's wrong about that. They're not going to commit that same folly again. Point number 5, and I think I've got 2 more. So 5 and 6. Point number 5. Mr. Rightmyer also incorrectly supposes that future restored Israel will again resort to taking earthly kings unto themselves. So you see that, he believes this time period of restored Israel is multiple generations, maybe even 100 years. I don't know. Which it could partly be true, because the state of Judah has already been a nation ever since 1948. That's at least 75 years, going on 100 years. Because of Judah. So after their restoration, the only single king, talking about the restored United Kingdom of Israel, after the restoration, the only single king they will have over themselves is the son of David, Yeshua of Nazareth. So saith the prophet Ezekiel. Now, mind you, this is after the second Exodus, after the two houses have been united, which will happen shortly after the second Exodus. The two sticks will be united. There's not much time for them to go sink back into depravity, because the Father will sustain them in his will. Quote, Ezekiel 37, verse 22 and verse 25. I, Yahuwah, will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king of them all. And they shall no more be two nations, neither shall be divided into two kingdoms anymore at all. And they, united, that's united Nazarene Israel, shall dwell in the land that I gave unto Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, even they and their children and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. So, again,
where's this at?
That's Ezekiel 37, verse 22 and 25.
Okay.
Again, both houses of Israel will not make kings unto themselves. The only king they will have unto themselves is Yeshua at this time. Now, it is look at the state of Judah, the house of Israel, the house of Judah, the state of Israel, modern day state of Israel. They have a democracy, which is also godless and reprobate, outcast, away from Elohim, not Yah's will. they have not made themselves kings, but they're not at this point in Ezekiel 37 verse 22, where they make one king of them all, where Yeshua is their king. And that king is Yeshua. It has to be, because they're united. And Ephraim will not make kings, earthly kings, of themselves in that way. They won't do that. Okay, point number 6, and this is my last point.
Okay.
Mr. Rightmyer wrongly concludes that once Israel has been restored again, that they will be plucked up yet again and be cast out of the Holy Land. This also contradicts several prophecies, such as Jeremiah 24:6, Ezekiel 36:6, 12, and 14, Ezekiel 37:25, and Amos chapter 9, verse 14. I'm just going to read 2 of them. I'm just going to read Jeremiah 24 and Amos chapter 9. Okay? What it says here. Quote, verse 6, Jeremiah 24:6. For I, Yahuwah, will set my eyes upon them, that's returning Israel, for good. And I will bring them again into this land. That's the second Exodus. Okay? And I will build them and not pull them down, and I will plant them and not pluck them up. Now let's read Amos chapter 9, verse 14 and 15. And I, Yahuwah, will bring again the captivity of my people Israel. That's the second Exodus, okay? And they shall build the waste places and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and drink the wine thereof. They shall also make gardens and eat the fruit of them. And I will plant them upon their land, and they shall no more be pulled up out of their land which I have given them, saith Yahuwah thy Elohim. So they shall no more be pulled up out of their land that I have given them. So it means Mr. Rightmyer was wrong in this assumption. So, in concluding, just a couple of sentences here. In concluding, trying to make sense of all what Mr. Rightmyer was saying. The author felt it purposeful to insert Mr. Levi Rightmyer's comments pertaining to the age of Joseph herein, as he brings several unique perspectives and intriguing points to the table of prophetic consideration. Therefore, at best, it is wise and good to at least consider what this man is saying. That's Mr. Rightmyer. Yet after analyzing his notes, we had to process his statements and test them with the litmus test of Scripture, classifying them into accurate and correct eschatological assessments, and also into inaccurate and incorrect eschatological assessments. We thank you, Mr. Rightmyer. We appreciate the fact that you at least tried. So having said that, that's the conclusion. Hope you all enjoyed this little discourse on Mr. Levi Rightmyer, a early 20th century Protestant Christian commentator from America. I thought it was very interesting. Thank you. You have anything you want to say? You want to add to this brother guy?
Oh, I have a few.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Let's talk about it.
You have, I'm going to critique you.
Okay.
And I agree with a lot that you're saying, first off, okay? You made a comment that it's got to be Yeshua, okay? And it doesn't. I don't see it.
You don't believe so?
No. I'm not saying that he isn't what we're looking for, the coming, is coming. Okay. What I am saying is there's going to be an anointed one that's going to be responsible for bringing back the house, the two houses back to the land. And this
You
anointed one is the king that's being described.
oh, you think he's a king?
Yeah, he'll be a king.
Okay, so I believe that he is an anointed one who will do this, but I don't believe he's a king. He'll even be a leader of Israel, but I don't believe he'll be a king. Okay.
Okay. And so when you look at it, it's like, okay, now okay. And you can see um, this is the guy. Go to Jeremiah 23, and it describes this king that I'm talking about. Jump down to like verse 4 and 5.
And I'll set up shepherds over them, which will shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, neither be dismayed, neither shall they be lacking, saith Yahuwah. And behold, the days come, saith Yahuwah, that I'll raise up unto David a righteous branch, Tzemach, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. And this is his name whereby he should be called Yahuwah Tzidkenu.
Okay, so this is that king, actually calls him a king, okay, or a ruler, and he's going to this is the Messiah that Jude is looking for. Okay. And this guy is the anointed, God's anointed one, the right hand man of God. Okay.
Okay.
And this is the prince that you see being involved in the temple, the building of
So
the.
I would say, I don't know if you can back up just a little bit. You're kind of a little close to the screen. We need to see your whole face if you don't mind. I want to say I agree with you that he will be a prince.
Okay.
I where I disagree is I don't believe he will be a king.
Well, that's semantics. He's going to be a ruler. Okay. And everybody's going to be under him. He's the root of David. Okay. So you can call him whatever you want to call him, but that's who it's going to be. And this is the one that's being talked about in Ezekiel chapter 20. It says, where with the mighty hand and outstretched arm, I will rule over you. This is a description of that anointed one. Okay.
Okay.
And the thing where it talks about dwelling safely. Okay. This is a very important. This is, you know how I talk about catchphrases? This is a catchphrase. Israel, there's only one time in history that Israel dwelt safely, and it was under Solomon, where they did not fear their enemies, which was part of the blessing.
You
And
don't believe that was under? Well, what about David and Joshua?
was David always at war?
Well, he was up until a certain point of his life. His latter years, I don't believe he was.
The point of it is that the enemy was out there, so they weren't dwelling safely. Is Israel dwelling safely today?
No.
That's because they're not keeping the commandments. Someone's not keeping the commandments. Okay. That's a sign that they're not keeping the commandments. Part of the curse. And so we're looking at dwelling safely, and you read it in Ezekiel 37, it talks about the, the Israel dwelling safely. And then it went in this, it talks about the prince who is to come, who comes in, and he's eyeballing Israel, who's dwelling safely. So this is first half. This is the first half of the tribulation period that's being described.
You're talking about, well, I mean, it mentions it here in Jeremiah 23. You're talking about Jeremiah 23? In his days, Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely.
Shall dwell safely, correct.
Let's
Okay.
see.
And it had only happened one time in history before. And this point, this is a prophetic event that's going to take place. And the term dwelling safely is describing where Israel is not afraid of its enemies. They're not, their enemies fear them. Okay. But then what happens at the toward the end, this is where the prince who has to come, you were mentioning this, okay? It says Israel, it will be, they'll be in the land and whatever, and then they'll stumble. You use the term, there'll be a slight thing, but it won't be too bad of a, like where Rightmyer was saying, they're gonna get kicked out of the land and everything, and you said, no, they'll stumble. I think I used the term stumble. It was just a little glitch type of a thing. Okay, well, that's what this is. There's a little glitch, and you have the prince who is to come, and he comes in and he takes out two-thirds of the land of Israel. Okay.
A different prince who is to come.
The prince who is to come that's been, that's it's not talking about uh the king that I'm talking about. It's
Yeah, yes, a different prince who is to come. You're saying there's two princes to come. One is going to be righteous. The other one's going to be a demon incarnate, basically.
so to speak, correct. Okay. And then at on his way in, this prince who is to come, he's the armies that are being drawn in to surround Jerusalem. And they're going to surround Jerusalem for the 3.5 years, the second 3.5 years. And they're not going to be able to take Jerusalem because Father's going to set up, the pillar of fire and column of smoke and keep them at bay for 3.5 years. So Jerusalem is the a place of refuge for 3.5 years. This is the same 42 months that when the angel's told to go and measure those that are inside the temple, but on the outside is being trampled by, outside Jerusalem, outside the old city, okay, are going to be the armies of this prince who is to come. So this is the second 3.5 years. Okay.
Well,
You have that period of dwelling safely, and you see where the prince who is to come.
I, I can I just say something real quick?
Yeah. I know you don't see it the way I do.
Well, no, it's interesting. It's good to have different views sometimes. But I just want to say I agree with you. Basically, I agree with you about the first 3.5 years that Jerusalem will be a safe haven. But also, there's a lot of scriptures that talk about Basra and the wilderness will be safe havens for Yahweh's people as well. So there's going to be more than one safe haven, not just Jerusalem.
Not
Second point
really,
is,
but go ahead. We can argue that point after you bring your second point in.
okay. Second point is that I don't believe the last 3.5 years are going to be any. Uh, I do believe there's going to be a remnant that survives during the last 3.5 years, but I believe they're going to have to flee big time. I believe Jerusalem's going to be completely taken over by Arminius, um, the Antichrist, and he's going to rule and reign for the last 3.5 years. The world. He's going to rule and reign the world for the last 3.5 years. So the only and he's gonna behead the righteous. So I don't believe they're gonna be able to make it to through the last 3.5 years without being beheaded. They're all gonna have to suffer martyrdom. So there's not like there's gonna be any restoration for them. I mean, there may be short times of spurts of refuge, but basically they're all going to get slaughtered. During the last 3.5 years, any remnant that was not caught up unto Yah, and that has to endure the last 3.5 years, I believe they're all going to become martyred. Almost all of them, except for the ones who are able to see Yeshua's resurrection or his second advent and behold his glory the second time he returns. But most of them are going to get beheaded. Go ahead.
So, 1 second. Okay. There's a verse that mentions about the abomination that he's going to set up his tent between Jerusalem and the sea. It's
Oh,
in
and Daniel. The
Dan,
book of Daniel.
Daniel 11.
Daniel 11. Yeah.
Okay. So he's not going to be ruling from there.
Well, it doesn't say tent; it says sanctuary, which I believe is the temple. Well, maybe you're right. Maybe it does say tent. Daniel 11. Let me just look at that. Go ahead. Keep going.
Okay. So no, he isn't going to be there. Okay. He's not going to rule from there. Secondly, you have the 42 months that inside inside Jerusalem is going to be um, these individuals that are being counted. Okay. A third one, which is a really good one, is you see in Zechariah chapter 14, where there's the armies breach the wall, and half the city goes into captivity and half does not. How did they get there and when did they get there? Think they got there the day before? Or have they been there for 3.5 years? Just like it talks about the woman and the man child, where they're going to be protected from the beast for 3.5 years.
Yeah. So I believe that's
Okay, and there's more evidence. Okay.
okay.
Isaiah chapter 4.
Okay. What does it mention?
Let's read it.
I'm still on Daniel 11 trying to find this. But go ahead and read it, Isaiah 4.
Well, no, before we move on, it's it's toward the end of the chapter.
Oh, yeah. The last verse in chapter 11. And he shall plant the tabernacle of his palace between the seas and the glorious holy mountain. He shall come to his end, and none shall help him.
He's not going to be there in Jerusalem at that time. But he's going to go in and set himself up as God. And that's the cue for the those who are in Judea to flee to the mountain fortress we know of as.
Well, I would say, I would have to say this. Both Paul and the book of Revelation, I believe, they tell us that he will, make himself as God in the temple of Elohim and sit in the throne,
Right?
declaring himself as God. And in the book of Revelation, that's Paul says it in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, I believe. And then in Revelation 13, it says that it talks about the abomination of desolation that's set up. And that's set up, we know, in the Holy of Holies. And he's going to basically sanctify that. He will be in the temple. You don't believe he's going to be in the temple?
Oh, yeah, he will. He's setting himself up. But that doesn't mean he's going to stay there for 3.5 years.
Okay.
You have this influx of over 1 million people flooding into the old city.
Millions,
Is
millions
being
upon millions, actually.
sorry?
Millions upon millions.
Well, they can really only hold so many. It's so many square feet. It can only hold so
But
many.
it's but it will be expanded and it was going to be rebuilt to. Well, anyway, go ahead. I'm listening. Yeah.
Okay, so regardless, the um, let's go to Isaiah chapter 4.
Um, so I just want to say, and it says, and he shall plant the tabernacle of his palace between the seas and the glorious holy mountain, and he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. Albert Barnes, and I really like his commentaries. He says Jerome renders it, and he shall pitch his tent in Apadno between the seas, regarding the word which translated render his palaces, Apadno, as a proper name denoting a place. So the Greek has it Ephadano. The Syriac renders it in a plain between the sea and the mountain. Theodore takes it for a place near Jerusalem. Jerome says it was near Nicopolis, which was formerly called Emmaus, where the mountainous part of Judea begins to rise, and that it lay between the Dead Sea on the east and the Mediterranean on the west, where he supposes that the Antichrist will pitch his tent. Porphyry and Calmer place it between the two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, the latter supposing it to mean Padan of two rivers, as in Padan Aram. That is the same place in Mesopotamia. And Dr. Goodwin supposes that the British Isles are intended. Which no. Who is eminently stands on the point between the seas. Professor Stewart understands this on the Mediterranean Sea, and that the idea is that the encampment of the Antiochus was in some situation between this sea and Jerusalem, mentioned here as the Holy Land and the beautiful mountain. So they're referring to this prophecy as referring to Antiochus. But go ahead.
Isaiah 4.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
The first verse is describing the daughters of Zion. This is the female count of those that are going to be inside the old city.
Okay.
Okay. Continue with it.
What chapter Isaiah 4, what?
It's the whole chapter. The, I just explained the first verse. You can
Oh, it's only like 6 verses. Okay. It should be that day, 7 women should take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel, only let us be called by the name to take away our reproach. In that day shall the branch
daughters
of
of Zion. Okay.
Yahuwah be planted, be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are escaped of Israel. And it shall come to pass
What
that
is it? What is it they called? The saved of Israel.
the escaped of Israel,
Okay.
escaped, escaped of
The
Israel.
escaped of Israel. Okay.
And it
That's
shall
what
come
we're,
to pass,
this is what we're talking about.
you know,
Okay.
it shall come to pass that he that is left in Sion and he that remains in Jerusalem shall be called holy, even every one that is written among the living in Jerusalem.
So that there is a reference to Jerusalem being the place of refuge. Okay. Continue.
When Adonai shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the spirit of judgment and by the spirit of burning.
This is the purge that I have been talking to you about that's going to take place. This is the purge about the 10 virgins, the five unwise virgins. This is what's the description being described in Zechariah 14, where half the city is taken, half is not. Continue.
Uh, and Yah, verse 5, and Yahuwah will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion and upon her assemblies a cloud and smoke by day, and the shining of flaming fire by night, for
When did
upon
that last happen?
during the Exodus.
Okay, and it was this is nothing new under the sun. This is a future event that's describing how the armies of the this prince who is to come are going to be held at bay. Okay, they're going to be kept
And,
from
Yah-
the
and
city.
Yahuwah will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion and upon her assemblies a cloud and smoke by day, and the shining of flaming fire by night, for upon all the glories shall be a defense.
A
And
defense,
there shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, and for a place of refuge, and for a covert from storm and from rain.
a
So
place of. Okay,
I personally believe this could happen. You're right, this could happen during the last 3.5 years. It also could happen during the first 3.5 years. It also could happen during the second Exodus.
the second Exodus begins to me, with the first 3.5 years. It begins at the first 3.5 years.
Okay, and that's where we disagree. But yeah. Um,
Well, this is the idea behind. I mean, there's all kinds of evidence, and it all ends up with it revolves around the abomination of desolation. Okay. And when you see, Yeshua says in Matthew 24, verse 15, he says, and when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. What does that mean? That means to understand is this is the midpoint of the 3.5 years where the abomination of desolation desecrates the temple. And
yeah,
then
I don't. Okay.
and then in the next verse, and he says, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Now, Jerusalem is established as what we just read there, and there's other ones, for example, this Joel 2:32, that Israel, that Jerusalem is the place of refuge, and that for the first 3.5 years, it's, the people are going to be dwelling safely, but then the abomination is going to come in, and the prince who is to come, and he's going to surround the city for the second 3.5 years.
Uh, we know that Gentiles are going to surround the city. Of course, I putting the second Exodus all the way at the beginning of Daniel's 70th week. There's several prophecies that you're not leaving room for. I don't see you're leaving room for. Um,
Okay.
there's uniting of the two sticks, the rebuilding of the temple. They can't happen because The return of all the tribes being restored, that's the second Exodus. And that lasts itself like 3.5 years. It doesn't happen immediately. It happens like over a course of time, 3.5 to 4 years. I believe it happens 4 years, 1/10 the time of the first Exodus. After that, then it says that they'll become so populous in the land that there's going to be no more room for them. So that means time, as generation after generation, they're going to prosper in the land and have bear children and a lot of children. This is before Yeshua returns, and then in congruence with that, the two houses become united, and then after that they build a temple. And the building the temple may take 6 months to a year, and they spend some time worshiping Yah in truth in the holy temple in Jerusalem, not when it's defiled, because the beginning of the Daniel 70th week is when the Gentiles come in and pollute it. And so I guess, you believe that it happens in the middle of the 7 years when the Gentiles come in?
That's what it says.
No, it doesn't say middle of the week.
When you
I
see
believe
the
it's
abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel stand in the holy place, let the reader understand. And then he says, like I said, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains, because, few verses down, that will be the beginning of great tribulation.
right. Great tribulation, the last 3.5 years.
That's the beginning.
Yeah,
When the
the
abomination
abomination. Oh,
desecrates the temple is the beginning of the last 3.5 years,
right.
which
So
is
then,
the
if
Great
but
Tribulation.
right,
Okay.
so the temple has to be built long before that, and the Gentiles come in. The Gentiles come in at the beginning of the 3.5 years, and it's not until 3.5 years later that the abomination of desolation is set up. But I guess yeah, we just disagree on this. We've talked about this numerous times, but um, yeah, I don't see that you can have how you can have uh, uh, the two witnesses have to have a ministry. What do you believe the two witness ministry is?
It is the second 3.5 years.
How can that be when the abomination of desolation is right in their midst?
They're not going to be there in the midst. I think he's going to be in the tent out between the two.
No, I'm talking about the two witnesses. How can the two witnesses, their ministry is in the temple? How can the abomination of desolation be there when the two witnesses won't allow anybody in? They're casting fire down from heaven. It can't work.
Okay, the 144,000 of the male count, they're going to be inside the old city of Jerusalem for that 3.5 years. They will be there, and the two witnesses are going to be there. They're going to be both groups. The two witnesses and the 144,000 and the daughters of Zion are going to be there for the 3.5 years. And this is what's being described in Revelation 12 of the woman and the man child. They're going to be protected there.
Yes, yeah, I believe this is the first 3.5 years because you can't have basically if you, by your by your prediction, your view, the two witnesses would have to be ministering alongside of right in the alongside of the abomination and desolation.
But the abomination of desolation isn't going to be there for 3.5 years. He comes in, he desecrates the temple. Everybody floods into the city.
So you believe abomination and desolation is is Armilus, the Antichrist?
He sets himself up in the temple. That's what it says by Paul, right?
I believe it is literally an image, a statue. And
It,
it does say that too. It does say that.
it,
He
Paul,
gives
Paul
the
says,
go ahead.
Paul, okay, he says he sets himself up.
Well, we don't. You and I both agree that Paul was right about everything.
Well,
And
thank goodness
still,
we agree on that one.
well, even still,
So
if
where
it's
does that leave Paul?
uh,
If you're going to
even
quote that
still,
son of a gun.
even still, setting himself up means uh, it simply means that he is taking his position of power in that context. It doesn't mean like erecting himself like an image or a statue. That is something different. That's the image of the beast, not the beast himself. So,
So no, I don't see it as a statue. Okay. I do see a statue that speaks, okay, which is to me what we're talking into. Okay.
well, you do real. I just want to say this: you do realize that the previous examples, two times in history, of the abomination of desolation have always been statues of things that shouldn't be there, and they've always been standing in the temple, on the holy temple, not in a tabernacle, in a temple. Both with Antiochus in about the third century BCE, and then with the Romans in the first century. They set an image, a forbidden statue, up in the holy place. And I believe this is so. I believe history shows us the pattern that will come to be again. And Revelation 13 is clear; it will be a statue. What do you mean? I don't understand.
Well, the thing, let me just say, and then I'm going to have to go. Okay.
Okay.
That someone goes into the temple and makes themselves God. And that's the abomination of desolation. And I don't see a this computer or statue, whatever. I'm not saying there won't be one. I'm just saying it isn't in the, it's not going to be in the temple. It's an actual person that's going to walk in there and say, I'm God.
Okay, but also there's an image. Where do you believe the abomination does the image, the statue? Where do you believe that's going to be set up at?
Doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, it does because you believe that the two witnesses. You believe the two
It's not
witnesses are
going to
going to.
be in Jerusalem. That's my point. It
You
won't.
don't believe. So you don't believe that the abomination, you don't believe that the image of the beast is going to be set up in Jerusalem.
Correct.
Okay, then where is
Anywhere but Jerusalem.
it?
Pick it what you want. Pick whatever you want. Okay. But it is going to be a computer. Okay. In shape
I mean,
maybe of a robot, whatever, doesn't matter.
I mean, an android. An android is a human like a humanoidal individual that looks like a human, but yet is a robot inside. Not a human, only a robot. But he looks like a robot, or he looks like a human. Sorry, that's an android. So maybe it's some kind of android.
Possibly, but it's not going to be, like this thing that's going to be glued down and is not going to leave Jerusalem. Okay. We're talking about the abomination of desolation. It's a person claiming to be God. Okay. If you look at it, here's some interesting information. I don't know if you've thought about this one. Is um, it talks about an individual, about the that he's going to receive a head wound and recover from the head wound. You're familiar with that.
Yeah.
Okay. In the Tanakh somewhere, I can't tell you right off the top of my head, it talks about this individual who they're paralyzed on the right side. Their right arm is withered and blind in the right eye. Okay, which is indicative of
Zechariah. It's in
a,
Zech.
a head wound. Okay,
Mhm.
which I very possibly we're looking at an assassination attempt on him somehow, and this is what happens. So um, we're talking about an individual. We're not talking about an android because if it was, they would just be able to repair. You know, in fact, I wouldn't doubt in all of this. You've ever seen the $6 million man? You ever see it?
No.
It was an android type of thing. He had this was a television series, and he um, had it was corny as heck. Okay, it was really corny, but it had some good ideas about it in the sense that it had this person who was damaged somehow. I forget exactly, and he was given a mechanical arm or whatever and a mechanical leg. He was superhuman in that respect. Okay, and it can happen that is something something like that, but it's not going to be there permanently in Jerusalem so that you can't have anybody um, in there. Okay.
Okay.
So, anyways, I know you don't agree with me, but I had to throw that evidence out, and you're going to have to ponder upon it or not.
Okay.
Um, as usual, I enjoy our discussions,
Yes. Enjoyed.
and
And enjoyed also.
I have to. Are we still friends?
Yeah, I'm still trying to compute the whole two witnesses and the image of the beast thing. According to your interpretation, I'm still trying to understand your view, but that's okay. We can talk about it again
Let
as
me
we have.
just throw this out as far as the two witnesses. There's only the first resurrection. There is no rapture. Okay. And the two witnesses do not receive this special resurrection thing card.
You don't believe the two witnesses are raptured?
I believe they are in the first resurrection. It's a description of the first resurrection.
So when the two witnesses, when it says they're caught up unto Elohim, or they're caught up, they ascend up.
Isn't that how it's described by Paul?
Is that not a rapture?
You can call it whatever you want, but it's described in Revelation as the first resurrection.
Mm,
Okay. When you
I don't know if I agree with that one, but okay.
So you believe there's more than the first resurrection?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Okay. Um, now I know.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, may the Most High bless you, brother.
Yes. Shabbat shalom, guy. God
Yep.
bless you as well.
And I'll send this later.
Okay. You can end recording. You can end recording.
I guess it would help, huh?